All right, noting the time and the presence of a quorum, I call the Boxborough Fire Station Building Committee to order. It's 2:32 p.m. I'm going to take a roll call vote of committee members. Alan?
Present.
Priya?
Present.
Maria?
Present.
Sarah?
Present.
And Mary present. So at this time, Larry and Mac are not present. Hopefully they will be joining us. Our sole item is the Article 4 sense of the meeting, building a new firehouse using high-level green construction standards. So I'm going to share my screen, but somebody has to give me, Mike, I think you have to give me permission to share.
Okay. Okay, just made you a co-host, and I'm letting Mac in right now. And Larry, I just sent the link, so he's planning on joining as well.
Oh, and Matt just came in.
Good. Okay.
And here's Larry coming in right now.
Excellent. Okay, so we just convened. Actually, I'll say I took a roll call attendance, but I'll add in Mac raising his hand and Larry raising his hand, and it's 2:34 that they both came in. Okay, so we're talking about Article 4. You'll see that I've made some significant revisions based on input from Kate Davies. So thanks, Kate, for taking the time to do that. Really giving it a tone, not just money-based, but the value and benefit of the green construction. I will say one of Kate's comments was the piece where I have what the basic green is in bullets and then the part that exceeds code requirement in bullets. She thought that was a little too detailed. And I will definitely be doing a presentation that elaborates on that. But I did feel like people needed to understand that difference, even just reading the warrant article. But if the committee feels differently and you want to cut it, that's all fine. So I'd love for us to talk about the actual motion and the summary first. So any thoughts, things you want to modify?
Are we happy with the word approximately? Even though this is a non-binding question, how far above $1 million can you go before it's not approximate anymore? You know what I mean? If we find out it's $1.2 million and we said it won't go over $1 million, is that a problem at this point?
Well, that's why I don't want to say it won't go over $1 million. To me, approximately gives you a little wiggle room. I don't think you could go up to 5 million, but could you go to 1.2? Probably. This stuff hasn't been estimated, so it's hard.
And this is also just a sense of the meeting vote. I mean, we're going to be talking about budget much further down the road, where it'll be much further detailed.
That's fine.
That's right.
That's why I'm asking.
Yep. Other thoughts?
No, I think what she added made it much more comprehensive and fuller. It's a good improvement.
Excellent.
Oh, you mean the bullet items? We're talking about the bullet items?
Well, the summary itself changed. Yeah. Even the motion itself changed. Yeah.
I like it.
I think it all changed for the better.
All right. Does someone want to move to approve the article as proposed?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I heard Priya move and Max second, and I'm going to take a roll call vote. Alan?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mac?
Aye.
Priya?
Sundaram, aye.
Maria?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
And Mary? Aye. Okay, so that's the actual wording of the article. Maybe I do this differently, but now I want to vote our recommendation. Are we in favor of this? And then I want to vote the language around our recommendation. So,
I would make a motion to approve the article.
To recommend the article.
To recommend, I'm sorry, the article.
Second.
Okay, Mac moved and Priya seconded. And so I'm going to take a roll call vote, unless there's any questions or comments first.
What are we questioning or commenting on at this point?
So the motion is that the Fire Station Building Committee recommend Article 4.
So the paragraph at the end, we're talking about
not the paragraph, just in the article, we're going to have a recommendation. Are you in favor of this article? And so if you are, you're going to say aye. If you're not in favor, you're going to say nay. If you're abstaining, you're going to say you're abstaining. Yeah. Okay. So all those in favor of recommending this article, I'm gonna ask for the aye votes first. Well, you can tell me aye, nay, or abstain. So Alan?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mac?
Aye.
Priya?
Sundaram, aye.
Maria?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
And Brolin, aye. So that's a 7-0-0. And then we give our explanation of why we are recommending this. And so you can see what I wrote here. We understand the long-term benefits, but the project expense, with the project expense, we're looking for input about whether to consider investing in this additional expense to bring enhanced green infrastructure into the project for long-term fiscal responsibility and sustainability. Any discussion there?
So when we're actually at the meeting and you're going to vote, the town's going to vote for this, do you get to explain more than what's written here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so there's two things. The moderator asks for the recommendations, and sometimes people read the recommendations. Sometimes they say a little more, not a lot, but we'll also have a presentation.
The one thing I hope it's clear to everybody, but maybe it's not. The very last line where you say infrastructure into the project, I'm wondering if we should put a phrase in there that says at its outset. Because we've talked about, can we add this later down the road when the town feels like they want to become more sustainable? And I think the answer is some of these things that are listed under the components can't be added later. They've got to be added while the building's constructed and the site is all disturbed. So I don't know if we want to cut off that discussion by saying, it's got to be done at the outset.
So do you want to say at the outset? Do you want to say during the design phase?
Well, at the design phase, they still could be cut, right?
Well,
we could design a building that shows it and then it's cut because the town won't pay for it. But they can't come back to it later and say, oh, now that we've got $1 million extra, let's go and add those geothermal wells.
Well, that's the thing that I asked Context and Vertex is they need to know at the beginning of the design phase because it's a different design if you don't include it.
No, you're right. I'm fine with that too.
That's not totally true. There are layers that can be put on or taken off. For example, if we're not going to invest in photovoltaic, we can do what's called photovoltaic ready, which means that there's a certain amount of infrastructure and conduits and structure that are placed so that we could at a later date, and we have space available for equipment. So there are layers. It's not fundamental. All of it's not fundamental from day one.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go with geothermal wells, the system is going to be designed to accept the geothermal energy, and it's a specific kind of system, which requires a specific kind of space. So some of those things, the analysis of that would be done early, but part and parcel to that is we're going to be doing a financial analysis to say, if we do go down this route for an extra $500,000, the payback will be 12 years or whatever the case may be. And that's done very early on. And that will be part of the whole design process. So it all doesn't have to be decided at the initial design start.
So do you think it's okay to say though during the design phase?
Yeah, I think that's right, because we may find that as we go through the design phase and we do initial pricing, that the pricing, lo and behold, is much, much higher than we thought. And so we're not going to be able to go to the town and say we want to do these other things too, because the
Right.
price is just too high. Or we may
Yeah.
find that it's coming in better and we have a little wiggle room and we may say, you know what, I think we can get some of these things in. So it's going to be an iterative process.
Okay. And Pri, I saw your hand up.
No, I think it's also important for the town to understand, like as a part of like even our own commitment, right? Part of a stretch code and extended stretch code and the state of Massachusetts, maybe few years down the road, there might not be certain things that is available even in Massachusetts. Maybe everything is going to not oil based, right? Like, and maybe we need to at that point upgrade everything. So I don't know if that's something that the town needs to understand. Like, I mean, we are moving towards a future where the state's commitment is towards sustainability and like making sure that that's incorporated. So we want to be at least ready for it. And like, and what better way to just do it right off the bat when it's going to be cheaper. So
Right. Do we want a sentence that says something like, we recommend this because it fits with the town's commitment to
green communities?
How do we know the town has a commitment?
Yeah, do
to
we
that?
have that commitment?
yes,
Right.
don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
Priya,
The
are we
green
part of the green
communities,
community?
yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that can be part of your presentation is that what the sense of the meeting voting positive for this doesn't necessarily commit us to anything, but it gives us a support to investigate these things further and bring them back for consideration.
That's right.
Because that's essentially what we're asking for. Is there interest to talk about these things later? We'll go into them in more detail, and we'll talk about the pros and cons and the cost and the long-term benefits. And so we'll dig deeper, but that's all going to come back to the town for discussion, review, and vote.
But in all honesty, when it comes to vote for the building itself, we're not going to give an option green and an option not green.
Correct.
We're going to have, at that point, we're going to have one option. Now, through our process, there will be time where people can share their input.
Right.
And so I can make that very clear. Look for the forums, look for this. But at that point, we're going to come in with what the committee has decided based on the design.
For the final vote, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
there will be pricing along the way, probably
Right.
at 3 different times, and
Right.
some of these strategies may or may not be included based on how the pricing is coming through.
Right.
Mary,
Okay.
Sarah has a hand up. I don't know if you can
Yep.
see it.
I can. Thank you. Sarah?
Yeah, I was also going to say too that like we have heard from the community in our public forums that they want the building to be sustainable. Like that is on their list, and that's something that I think was asked in almost every public forum. So I was wondering if that's not included in this recommendation, at least it's included in the presentation. Like, we heard you. This is what you want.
Okay, because we could say, because in our forums, we have heard the community support green initiatives, and it fits with the town's commitment to green communities.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
that works.
Okay, I'm going to go to Matt because I saw his hand first, and then Maria.
So we've been looking at it in the sense that if people vote for this, we will be considering that during the design phase. What is the opposite? If people roundly disapprove of this article, does that mean we're not even going to think about any of these things during the design phase?
Well, we have to have all of these. We have to have efficient windows, efficient HVAC, air sealing,
Right.
efficient lighting, EV chargers, the solar photovoltaic infrastructure has to go up.
That's all code requirements.
Yeah.
Right. This is all code. What we would, yes,
That's right.
it means we would likely not look at geothermal because that's
Right.
the big nut in all this. Geothermal's the big cost. And geothermal leads you to net zero. It leads you toward the lead, that kind of thing. So yes, if it was a resounding no, then I think we need to listen to the committee, listen to the community and say, we don't put this in at the outset.
Yeah, and there will be some people that are pushing very hard on the overall price. And they're going to ask, well, if we vote for this, how much are we going to spend on professional services evaluating and pricing all these different things? I don't want to spend any of that money. So we might need to have an answer to that, because someone will ask that question.
Okay.
Because it requires a pretty healthy dose of analysis.
Yeah.
Also, thinking about that even further, what if we pick a site and geothermal ends up not working on it?
Well, that's the thing.
We hear from everybody that yes, they want us to do it, and then we're like, sorry, we can't because we picked this site.
That's a really good point. I will put that in the presentation. We cannot constrain the site by one more factor. We are as limited as we can be. So whatever site, if they support something like this, we're going to go on whatever site we choose and do the best job we can there.
Okay.
But we just can't, we don't have the room to keep constraining. Maria.
So I have a question, and I'm not sure Priya might be able to answer this. As part of the green communities, or maybe Kate, wasn't part of our commitment in becoming a green community that we would be building sustainable buildings in the future? Isn't that, Priya? Isn't that part of our But is it like a requirement? Because we get dollars for the green communities. We get grants. So is this part of a requirement being part of the green communities? I feel like if it is a requirement, do we really have an option?
Yeah.
And so I'd love an answer.
But how green do you have to be to
that
meet
would
the
be
requirement?
The question. Right. So
I think if we are going towards the stretch code and the expanded stretch code and all that, all these things will fall in place. But I don't think we are there yet. We haven't had a vote. Kate, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, it's a good question, Maria. As long as currently we are already adhering to the stretch code, we had to agree to that in order to become a green community. And so that's the basic components that Mary spelled out. We're not required under green communities to go above and beyond that until the town decides to adopt, higher standards, code standards, such as the specialized stretch code. But we don't have other requirements under green communities. It's just that there are kind of general expectations that the town is going to be making moves towards being a net zero community. But the town has a lot of leeway in terms of how we would go about making that progress.
So the basic green infrastructure covers the stretch code, right? Information. Yep. And then the green infrastructure components, the second set of bullets, is above and beyond that. But that would be lovely if we could do it. That's the goal, is to get there eventually, but it's not a requirement.
Exactly. And that's the place where you potentially, depending on some very complex analyses, where you get a lot more return on your investment, because some of that infrastructure, those infrastructure investments, have a really good energy efficiency and a really good return. So that's why it might be, and it's much cheaper to invest in it at the early stage than it is to backfill and try and invest and retrofit a building later. So you're actually saving money by investing in the new construction benefits.
But we can't, and we won't have, Mary, the return on investment, right? So that's, so I know that when we talked about this in FinCom, that was a big So there's a couple of us who are like, we got to do this. I mean, this is what we have to do. And for $1 million over 30 years, I think you can make a good argument that it's a cup of coffee a month, maybe. I don't know. I have to do the analysis,
so I did calculate. We'd have to save $33,000 a year, say in lower electricity or something. Like it's possible,
So the total cost is $33,000 a year.
Well, $1 million over 30 years means if we got back, now someone could argue, well, you're paying interest on the $1 million, and we can do that math. But yes, around $33,000 a year is what we need to save to break even in 30 years. But also there's the whole concept of, do you have to fully break even to do the right thing for the future?
I understand. So from the perspective of FinCom, there's a couple of us that feel that way. There's also a couple of us that are like, nope, we're the FinCom. We need to make the numbers work. So we're not going to have those numbers. So, we may come in with a split. I would imagine ours is going to be a split decision. And that's fine. That argument can be made from our board. Because that's, if we could put numbers around that for town meeting, I also think it's an easier sell. Because, and it doesn't need to be exact numbers, but if we could, some numbers, I mean, you're not going to save it.
It's so specific to situations, Maria. We don't know if the land, so at the school, we had 68 geothermal wells. We're not going to need 68 for this, but say we need 25. Do we have enough property for 25? We don't even know what property we're on yet. So we're not going to have it. I think there are ways we can couch it. And then what we need to emphasize is, through the design process, there will be cost estimates and there will be this, and that's the time for people to weigh in.
Okay. All right.
If, this is a high level conceptual sense of the meeting, there'll be other opportunities to weigh in.
And Mary, maybe Kate can answer this one. We had a grant where they were going to look and give us professional advice on like the the transfer station. We might be able to avail some grants for professional services even over here. Am I right, Kate? Is that feasible, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the ways that you can make this, that's one of the ways that ultimately you would have to make this fiscal argument, is that you would need information on the grants that would be incorporated into the build and design stages. And there are definitely a lot of resources out there. And I did send kind of a giant whack of resources to Mary, like overwhelming amount of starter resources, to kind of try to just start to pull some of that stuff together. But basically, you need to know what your grants and sort of incentives are going to be as part of the package. They're out there, but it's hard to know what they are. Currently, that landscape is very in flux. So it's just, it's a little bit hard to know, but that would be part of the package you would do when you're doing your fiscal analysis. And I just want to say to Maria's point while I'm talking that, like, there's a bunch of ways that net zero buildings often recover costs. Energy savings is a big one. And we do know almost 20% lower maintenance costs are associated with commercial buildings. So like lower maintenance costs for green infrastructure versus commercial buildings. And there are reduced maintenance costs due to because they're durable systems. They're built to be resilient and durable. And incentives, grants, and resources are a big part, as well as the sort of energy savings. So there's a bunch of, those are kind of the three pieces. I said that really in a complicated way. It didn't have energy savings, reduced maintenance costs, and incentives, grants, and resources. So those are kind of the three.
20% is like a good number to say for reduced maintenance costs.
Yes, 20% is a solid number backed up by research. The energy savings are really variable, like Mary was saying, and the incentives are a little bit unknown at the moment.
Is the sustainability doing a recommendation on this article as well?
We will. We aren't going to have one in time for the warrant, but we will definitely do a recommendation on the floor.
Mike, is it going to be listed in the warrant as sustainability, defer to fall town meeting? So
We can
people know
certainly
what's coming?
do that.
Yeah, because I think that's good. So people understand that sustainability is going to weigh in.
Yep.
They're going to do it at town, and they may want to like reach out beforehand.
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan?
I have a comment on the way something's worded, if I could just get it out there before I forget.
Yep.
In the second list of bullets, Mary,
Oh, yeah.
the second one from the bottom, I was confused until I read that numerous times. I understand no fossil fuels required, but then I think in the parenthetical phrase, you might want to say no gas or oil-fired equipment except for emergency generators, because it sounds like you're excluding emergency generators because you don't have gas-fired equipment. And I don't think that's what you meant, and we know that's not what you meant. But I would say no gas or oil-fired equipment except for emergency generators. And that kind of explains it more, I think.
Okay. We already voted that, Alan, but I think we'll take
I'm
friendly committee edit
Yeah, I know.
if everyone's okay with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all good.
So I'm going to go back to this. Anything else on this?
Yeah, I would ask the
proposed-
question, because I have not been with your discussions, your detailed discussions with context, but I remember early on, Jeff Shaw was saying that he has not done a net zero fire station and did not think that it was feasible. And
Yeah.
so, and again, because my background is not in fire stations, where there are spaces where their doors are opened as they are in a building like this, I don't have the detailed analysis to know if it makes sense or not. But our architect, I recall, said it did not. So have you had further conversations with context about the viability of what we're asking to do?
They gave us those bullets. We've had conversations about geothermal wells. I think it's a similar situation of you don't know if you can get to net zero till you've designed the space and figured all that out. So we're not necessarily committing to net zero with this. We're committing to a higher level with constraints of the site and how we're going to design it the best way we can to do the best we can. And that will be explained in the presentation.
But more fundamentally, Jeff was saying that these building types, fire stations specifically, did not lend themselves well to trying to be designed as net zero regardless of the site.
Okay, so are you saying I need to know more specifically what you're saying. Are you saying we should take this off?
No, I'm saying that many meetings past when we were pushing Jeff about this topic, he said that what I just said, that fire station, the typology of a fire station did not lend itself well to being a net zero building just because of the constraints of the building and the functionality demands.
Yes, he did say that. But what does that mean? I don't understand what that means for what we're talking about.
Well, it means that some of these strategies may not actually be practical to pursue because we are building a fire station.
Right.
Our architect says that it hasn't worked in the past for him on fire stations. And so does it because a fire station is a very specific building type. And what's unique about it is really not anything other than the apparatus bay, because that's a large volume space that when it's heated, the doors are opened and you lose a lot of the energy because the doors stay open for a certain amount of time. The rest of the building is very much like a commercial building. So
right, but even if you can't get to net zero, are you saying you wouldn't put in geothermal wells and be the most efficient you could be?
Well, you may not. only if you decided that you did a split system and you use geothermal for everything other than the apparatus bay, and the apparatus bay was conditioned differently, in which case, you may be into two different systems. I would ask our expert what the issues were, because I'd hate for the question to come to him on town floor that somebody says, well, can we talk to the architect? Have you done this before? And he's going to say, no.
Okay.
So I just remember, and we didn't go very far in that conversation with him, and I haven't been able to talk to him subsequently about the specific reasons, but I remember that he said it very succinctly.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
Larry, I'm trying to understand. Are you saying that? I mean, we are nowhere here saying that we are going to be a net zero building, right?
No,
I mean, no. But like, even still, you think it's going to be a problem?
Well, I think that, net zero is just getting to a level where you're generating as much energy as you're using.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So we can use geothermal wells and be more efficient.
Yeah.
We might not get to net zero.
We never say though we are going to be net zero anywhere.
No, it's just that what I recall Jeff saying is the apparatus bay required a unique system to condition it versus the balance of the other half of the building, if you will, right? We're 20,000 square feet. The apparatus bay is 10. So half the building can do somewhat traditional systems, but the apparatus bay is unique. And he also said that, for example, you couldn't generate enough solar electricity from rooftop photovoltaics for the demands that we were going to have. So I just want to make sure that what we're asking for dovetails with what we can actually achieve.
But I think we won't fully know that till we're in design. I mean, it may be we're net zero in everything but the apparatus bay or something like that. Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah.
Doesn't the apparatus bay have its own separate heating system anyway? Because that's radiant floor heating that's generated some other way, isn't it?
Well, if we go with radiant heat is a good option, but it's more expensive than, a traditional rooftop system. So that's going to be balanced out with cost.
Right.
So Mary, what if, under this net zero energy ready, because that does give the impression we're going to be net zero, ideally zero energy required on average to operate the building. Maybe we put something in where, we leave the net zero energy ready, but just, mention the fact that net zero is difficult. I don't know how to wordsmith it, but net zero is difficult to achieve in a fire station.
Maybe right now, maybe in the future, if we are ready, it might be feasible. So I think currently that's what we are trying to,
currently net zero, is difficult to achieve in a fire station building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something
potentially
like that.
being net zero energy ready.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah,
I think you can explain it in your presentation. I mean, I think, the reality is some of us agreeing to geothermal has nothing to do with being net zero, because we all know that this is not going to be a net zero building because we were told that early on. But that doesn't mean we don't want it to be sustainable. So, or to the best of our ability to get it, as close to net zero or to produce our own energy. So we shouldn't do, solar panels because we know it's not going to be, you know what I mean? There's one thing, I don't think the two are tied. And so I think you can explain that. You can explain that we know currently it will not be, our base cannot be net zero. However, we want to be net zero ready. However, we want to say that at the time. I think that's enough. People understand. Especially in this community. I think that for the most part, people in this community understand the green initiatives.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to get this sidetracked, but maybe you could get Jeff to just weigh in and give us a sentence or two about how this has been dealt with in the past.
Yeah, I will definitely. I took a note so he's ready for town meeting.
Yeah.
I think we need to finalize this so everyone else can finalize, but I took that note. Kate.
I just wanted to let you all know that Newburyport, Massachusetts built a net zero fire station in 2022. and they have a very extensive report available online. It's a PDF full of lots of numbers and details on the analysis that they did to decide how they were going to achieve net zero. So, you know, it's an interesting read. It's not all relevant to Boxborough, obviously, but it definitely can be done and has been done recently in Massachusetts. So
Excellent.
I just want to make sure that that's on the table.
Thank you. I will be reading that as I prepare a presentation that I would also love to share with you, Kate, for your feedback. Thank you. All right. So this is what we have for our recommendation. Any other changes? If not, can I have a motion to approve this recommendation as written here?
So moved. Oh, sorry. I'll second.
Okay, so I heard Alan move it and Priya second, and I'll take a roll call vote. Alan?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Mac?
Aye.
Priya?
Sundaram, aye.
Maria?
Aye.
And Mary, aye. And so I believe that's our only agenda item. I'm going to stop sharing. I want to thank you all for giving up part of your Friday afternoon, and thank you, Kate and Steve, for coming, and Mike. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard Mac move and I heard Sarah second. And roll call vote. Alan?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Mac?
Aye.
Priya?
Sundaram, aye.
Maria?
Aye.
And Mary, aye. And we're all set.